Hare Krishna to all the devotees. Thank you, thank you so much for joining us today. So today it will be a blessing to go on a virtual pilgrimage to 5 very great, very beautiful temples of Sri Krishna across Kerala. So that's the reason for the title, Pancharatnam, literally 5 jewels. So the temples I have chosen to talk about today are number 1, the Sri Janadana Swami temple at Vatkala, which is near Thiruvananthapuram. The Sri Krishna Swami temple at Ambala, Pura, which is in the Alapi district of Kerala. Then the Sri Krishna Swami temple at Neya, Tinkara, which is again near Thiruvananthapuram. And the Purna Traisha temple at Tripunitura, which is near Kochi city. And then lastly, the Aranmula Sri Parthasarathi temple. These are really, really special temples. We have had the good fortune of being to most of these temples, like me and my family, except the Aranmula Parthasarathi temple and the Neya Tinkara Sri Krishna temple. But we have been to the other 3 temples and they are beautiful, beautiful.
And I think we haven't been to any of these, so this is going to be a fantastic journey. So thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. It's my utmost pleasure. Okay, so I'll just start with just the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so the first temple in our virtual pilgrimage today is the Sri Janadana Swami temple at Vatkala. Now, Vatkala is about 25 kilometers north of Thiruvananthapuram city. It is also known as Janardanapuram on account of the presiding deity of the temple, Sri Mahavishnu, who is known as Janardana at this particular temple. The temple is located close to the Vatkala Papanasham beach, which is very unique because usually when you talk about a beach or a seashore, you just have the sea and the sands. But here at Vatkala, there are cliffs and rocks on the shore and they overlook the sea. So it's a very unique beach, not just geographically, but because of its deep connection with the temple, which I will talk about shortly. The beach is the water of the sea at the beach there is known as Papanasham because a dip in these waters is believed to wash away all of one's sins. So Papa meaning sins and Nasha means to destroy. So that's the reason the waters are also known as Papanasham. And there are natural springs gushing out of the rocks in these cliffs. So this water is believed to possess medicinal properties due to the presence of various minerals and herbal plants surrounding these springs. Okay, I'll enlarge my screen. So what is the background? How did this temple come into being? How did the deity at this temple come into being? At the end of the Dwapara Yuga, Lord Brahma and Devarshi Narada had a conversation about the perils and the troubles of Kali Yuga that human beings and all other living beings would face because of the very nature of the age of Kali. And Narada asked his father, Lord Brahma, as to what could be done to alleviate the sufferings of mankind in the age of Kali. And Lord Brahma replied that those who would worship and pray with all their hearts to Lord Janadana, or that is Mahavishnu, at his temple, which exists today at present day Vatkala, would be freed from the influence of Kali. And so Narada set out to find a suitable location for this temple. So when he began to journey through the skies and he reached the spot where the temple stands today, his upper garment, the dhoti or the cloth that he wore on the upper part of his body, flew and fell down to the ground. So this garment is called Valkalam in, I think in Sanskrit, I'm not sure. So the spot where the garment of Devarshi Narada, the upper garment of Devarshi Narada fell onto the ground, because it was called Valkalam, the place itself came to be known as Vatkala. And Lord Brahma and Narada then decided that they should conduct a great yajna or a fire sacrifice at this place for the welfare of all living beings. So this photograph is of the entrance to the main inner shrine at the temple, and the text there is in Malayalam. It reads, Om Shri Janardanaya Parabrahmane Namaha. So, so now, having successfully completed such a great yajna on a grand scale, there was a small bit of pride that entered Lord Brahma's mind. Oh, I have accomplished such a great yajna. I have achieved so much. This is such a great endeavor. This is such a great achievement. And the Lord, of course, could not allow for pride to enter the mind of his devotees. So Lord Vishnu then appeared at the site of the yajna as a small Brahmin boy, requesting some prasadam, to which the Lord Brahma readily agreed, and he started to serve the boy. Imagine his astonishment when the food started to disappear within moments of being served on the banana leaf. He kept serving, the food kept disappearing. He kept serving, the food kept disappearing. And very soon, all the food that was stocked there for the purpose of the yajna was all consumed. There was nothing left. And finally, Lord Brahma fell at the boy's feet, praying for forgiveness. And it was then that Lord Vishnu revealed his true form and blessed Lord Brahma, emphasizing very clearly that false pride and ego should never be allowed to develop in oneself, because it is an obstacle to devotion. So the deity of the Lord here is very unique. So as you can see, this is, of course, an artist's representation, because no one can photograph the deity in the temples. Photography is not allowed. As you can see, the Lord is holding, as usual, the Shankha, Chakra, and the Gada in 3 of his hands, but his lower right hand is in a gesture of sipping water before partaking of food, as most Brahmanas usually do. It is indicative of giving thanks to God for the food received. This pose is very unique. It's not seen in any other temple for the Lord anywhere in Bharat or anywhere in the world. And it is a miracle that this lower right hand that the Lord is holding in this manner, that hand is always wet. No matter, because the decorations for the Lord, of course, the clothes, the ornaments, they do Abhisheka every day, they dry the Lord, they dress the Lord, they do it every day. But that hand of the Lord, no matter what, it is always wet. It is believed that this water seeps through the body of the Lord, the deity, and flowing underground, it finally reaches a small pond in front of the temple. So I apologize, the photographs have not been arranged very properly, but the second photograph that you see is a close-up shot of that small pond in front of the temple. And because of the network of underground pipes, the water from this small pond finally merges into a larger pond, or a lake, if I may say so, on the northern side of the temple. So that is the last photograph, is a close-up shot of that lake, that larger lake. And the water from this lake eventually merges with the sea, the seashore. And that is why the sea at this particular beach is also known as Papanasham, because the water from the Lord's hand is believed to flow through this pond and this lake, and it finally merges into the sea. As recorded in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited this temple, bathed in the sea, and stayed here for 3 days praying to Sri Janadana Swami. The name Janadana means the one who ensures the welfare of all living beings by alleviating their sufferings. So that is the Sri Janadana Swami temple for you, dear devotees. So any questions, any feedback, any comments, anything you would like to suggest, anything you would like to say?
Which state is this place? This
Kerala, Kerala.
all of these, yeah?
Yeah, all of the 5 temples that we will talk about today are in Kerala. This temple is about 25 kilometers away from Thiruvananthapuram city, the capital city. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Amazing darshan, and amazing pastime of the hand always being wet.
Yeah, it is indeed. It's a beautiful temple. It was very silent and the locality is very calm and very serene and peaceful. But it was a long time, of course, that when we visited. I think it must have been at least 10 years ago, 9 or 10, 10 or 11 years ago. But yeah, very, very fond memories of visiting this temple and the beach. The beach is also beautiful. Okay. Okay. Let's move on to the next temple. So this is the Sri Krishna Swami temple at a place called Neya, Tinkara, which is about 20 kilometers south of Thiruvananthapuram city. Neya Tinkara is located on the banks of the Neya river, which originates from a nearby mountain called Agastyar Kudam. The mountain peak is named after Maharshi Agastya, one of the 7 great sages or Saptarishis. It is believed that the ghee, or the clarified butter that Maharshi Agastya used for his prayers and yagyas on the mountain top, began to overflow down the mountain, and it took the form of a river. And the river thus came to be known as Neyar, Ney being the Malayalam word for ghee. And therefore, the place itself came to be known as Neya Tinkara, the place literally meaning the place on the banks of the river Neyar. So this is a photograph of the front of the temple as one enters. So the flagstaff is a typical feature of all temples in Kerala. And that tells you that the location of the flagstaff tells you that this is the main entrance to the temple. Lord Krishna resides here as Navanita Krishna, the beautiful child holding butter in both of his hands. The deity is made of Panchaloha, a mixture of 5 metals and faces west. Pure, freshly churned butter, along with bananas, is the most important offering here, and it is called Trikkayil Venna. So Trikkai means the lotus hands of the Lord, the hands of the Lord, and Venna meaning butter in Malayalam. This prasadam is believed to be a cure for all ailments, especially those of the stomach. Devotees also offer garlands of tulsi leaves and oil or ghee to light the lamps. Very unique deity. We'll now talk about a very special, very unique feature that is present on the temple premises right outside the main entrance. So, if the devotees may recall, while talking about the Tiruvananthapuram Ananta Padmanabha Swami temple, we spoke about one king in particular. His name was Martanda Varma, Aniram Tirunal Martanda Varma, who was responsible for most of the major renovations and welfare schemes that continue to this day. He was also the king who was responsible for having the deity that we see today installed in the temple. And he was the king who started the tradition of dedicating oneself and the entire royal family, as well as the kingdom of Thiruvananthapuram itself, to the Lord. So this story, this episode also relates to that same king. So the mid 18th century, there was a lot of tension and political struggles between this particular king and a group of local leaders, local village leaders called, locally they were known as Ettu Veetil Pillamar. Now, and the enmity was so strong that these local leaders and were always on the lookout to somehow or the other capture the king and harm the king and the royal family. So the king was forced always to live in exile. He was forced to be on the run. He could never stay at one particular place in peace. So on one such occasion, he was on his way from a place called Padmanabhapuram, which is adjacent to Tiruvananthapuram. The king received a tip-off that he was being followed by these local leaders. And then he decided, okay, now I'm going to change my route. And he started to take a lot of shortcuts. And finally, he reached the banks of this river Neya, and he hid amidst the thorny bushes that he could find, because he couldn't find any other place to hide. And still, he felt very unsafe. He thought, oh my, I do not want to be discovered by these people. What am I to do? He could do nothing but pray to the Lord, pray to Lord Padmanabha for help. And just then he heard a voice. Mind you, there was no one in those surroundings. It was pin drop silence all around. There was no human presence for miles and miles. And so the king was very surprised when he heard a voice. And he turned around to see a small cowherd boy who asked him to hide in the hollow of a large jackfruit tree that was standing nearby. And the king did as he was told. And when he was sure that the enemies had moved on, when he was sure that there was no one waiting to capture him as soon as he would come out, he slowly came out of the hollow of the tree. But he couldn't find the little boy anymore. He searched and searched, but he couldn't find the boy again. He very firmly believed that it was Lord Krishna himself who had rescued him. And therefore, the king had a temple built for the Lord. That jackfruit tree, which literally saved the king's life, came to be known as Ammachi Plav. So, Plav means jackfruit tree in Malayalam. And Ammachi means grandmother. So like a mother or a grandmother would nourish her and nurture her children or grandchildren, that tree protected the king and saved his life. Uh, Unfortunately, the tree does not exist uh, in the form that it had at the time of this episode. So earlier, the tree was quite huge and it used to bear fruit, but over time, it naturally degraded, and all that remains is a stump of the tree, which is very, very carefully preserved in the temple premises. So the photo that you see below is a close-up shot of that stump that the temple authorities and the devotees have managed to preserve. The tree is it doesn't grow anymore, but in remembrance of that episode where the Lord saved the king's life by showing him this hiding place, devotees offer their respects to this tree whenever they visit the temple. Okay, so that is the Neya Tinkara Sri Krishna temple for you. Any questions? Anything to ask? Anything to suggest?
No, very, very interesting pastime again.
The deity is very unique too. We not this one. This one is of the next temple. This we hardly ever see such deities in any temple. We usually have a deity of Krishna holding, playing the flute, or Krishna in his Mahavishnu form with 4 hands. But this is quite unique. Krishna holding butter in both the hands. The little child.
Usually he's sitting down, but this one
Yeah,
is standing.
yeah. Usually he's sitting down.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's sitting down, or he's in a crawling position.
Yes.
One hand resting on the ground and one hand holding Makhan. But this is very unique. Okay. This temple is my favorite. We at my family, we are very, very, very fond of this particular temple. I have a photograph of this photograph at home here, and it's a very, very special temple. We will see how. So the Purna Traisha temple is situated at a place called Tripunitura, which is about 10 kilometers to the southeast of Ernakulam city or Kochi city in Kerala. Tripunitura was originally known as Purna Vedapuram or Purna Vedapuri. This temple is dedicated to Lord Vishnu as Purna Traisha, meaning the Lord who has manifested himself as the complete essence of the 3 of the Vedas, the Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, and the Sama Veda. So Trai meaning 3, Purna meaning complete, and Isha meaning Lord. Therefore, the name Purna Traisha. The Lord here is considered to be Santana Gopala, the protector of children, who also blesses childless couples with the gift of parenthood. The presiding deity, as we can see in the photograph, is Sri Mahavishnu, seated on the folded body and under the 5 hoods of the divine serpent Ananta or Adisesha. The Lord holds a Shankha, Chakra, and Padma in 3 hands, and his lower left hand rests on the folded body of Ananta. The deity is of divine origin and is Swayambhu, meaning a form in which the Lord manifested himself. It's a self-manifested deity and has not been created by human hands. That is what makes the deity and the temple even more special. Very unique deity. Even when it comes to Mahavishnu sitting on Adisesha, we usually have the Lord reclining or lying down on the body, stretched out on the body of Ananta, as we saw in case of the Padmanabha Swami temple, or even Sri Rangam in Tamil Nadu. But this sitting posture is very unique and is present in very few temples across Bharat. Okay. The origins of this temple lie in the Santana Gopalam episode of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I think it is chapter 89, canto 10. So
there's only 90 chapters in Krishna book in canto 10. So 89 chapter. We'll look
89, I believe. Yeah,
okay.
88 or 89. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, very good.
Santana Gopalam. The episode itself is called Santana Gopalam. So a Brahmana living in Dwarka, he was so deep in grief because 9 of his children, they vanished. They literally vanished, or they disappeared as soon as they were born. Not even one child survived on earth, even for a few minutes. And he was so deeply affected by this, he began to blame Sri Krishna, because at that time Sri Krishna was ruling Dwaraka. And in that deep sorrow and deep grief, he began to blame the Lord for not protecting his children. You did not protect my children. You have not fulfilled your duty. You are supposed to be the protector of your subjects. And look what is happening in your kingdom. And Arjuna, who was present there, he could not tolerate these insults. Like, how dare you talk about Krishna in this way? I cannot allow you to do this. And in that moment of impulsive anger, although it was righteous, it was with the most good intentions, Arjuna made a vow. He said, I will protect all your future children. And if I am not able to do that, I will give up my life by jumping into the fire. And I swear that I will do this. And then Arjuna goes to the Brahmana's house, and he, using his yogic powers and his knowledge of weapons, he tried to create every possible shield or every possible armor that he could create around the house of that Brahmana. But in spite of doing all that, the 10th child also disappeared. And Arjuna he did not know what to do. He invoked more of his yogic powers. He began to search every possible planet in the universe. He went to Yamaloka, he went to Brahmaloka, he began to search everywhere for the baby. No luck. He couldn't find the child. And finally, admitting defeat, he was about to give up his life in the fire when Krishna stopped him. He said, don't be foolish. Suicide is a sin. You cannot do this. I will help you find all the children. Let us look together. Let us search together. Don't be so foolish. Don't give up your life just like that. And then, Lord Krishna and Arjuna, they began to travel. They boarded Lord Krishna's chariot, and they traveled beyond the various planets. They crossed all the material planets. They reached that dark region which covers this entire material universe. And with the help of the light of the Sudarshana Chakra, they were able to cross that dark region. And then they came to that place where the Lord's spiritual light, the Lord's effulgence or Brahmajyoti shines outside the material universe. They crossed even that. And finally, going on and on and on, they reached the ocean from where all of material creation originates. And there they saw the gigantic form of Lord Mahavishnu lying on the body of Adisesha. Now, Krishna and Arjuna, it's a very interesting episode. Krishna and Arjuna, Krishna offering respect to himself. So Krishna and Arjuna then offered their respects to Lord Mahavishnu, by bowing down before him. And then Lord Mahavishnu said, "My dear Krishna and Arjuna, I arranged for the Brahmana's children to be taken away and kept here with me so that I could see you both here together. You may now take the children back and entrust them to their father, the Brahmana." These verses in the Bhagavatam, they are very, very interesting. I would like to read them myself. I haven't done that. I would like to read them myself when I have the time.
This is definitely there. And Srila Prabhupada in this Krishna book, he explains that Krishna is the original supreme personality of Godhead, from whom all the other incarnations come, including Mahavishnu. And
Right.
Mahavishnu wanted to have, Krishna is so extraordinary that even though Mahavishnu and Krishna are one and the same, still Mahavishnu wanted to have darshan of Krishna.
Exactly.
Incredible. Very good.
Really,
Last
truly incredible. And then Arjuna handed over the children to the Brahmana. He entrusted all the 10 children back, and the Brahmana was very happy. And before Arjuna and Krishna left and moved on to come back to the earth, Lord Mahavishnu, he entrusted this deity. He handed it over to Arjuna and instructed him to install it at a suitable place on earth. And it was thus that this beautiful temple, the Purna Traisha temple, came into being. At that point, at that point of time, the place was surrounded by fields of mustard, and so because Arjuna could not find any other source for oil to light a lamp for the Lord, he crushed some of the mustard seeds and used that oil to light a lamp for the Lord. It is believed that the temple tantris, or the high priests of this temple, are descendants of that same Brahmana whose children were brought back by Lord Krishna and Arjuna. The Sanctum Sanctorum is in the form of a chariot, and a deity of Lord Ganesha is worshipped on the southern side of the sanctum. So this is yet another special, very, very special temple for the Lord. Anything to say, anything to share?
Just wanted to ask you, what is the deity made of? What material?
I think it is Panchaloha.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it is Panchaloha. It's quite huge when you see it in person. On the few occasions that we have been there, we haven't been able to see. I don't recall being able to see the full form of the Lord, because almost always there are offerings of flowers and garlands. So it covers nearly all of the Lord's body, and only his face and the 5 hoods of the snake are visible. But yes, I think it's not stone for sure. I believe it is a mixture of metals, or panchaloha as we call it.
Thanks. And is it golden in color then?
Not exact. It might not be the exact golden shade of golden that we see in these photographs. It's more of a coppery, copper to gold mix, as far as I recall. It's been a long time since we went, but yeah, it's got more of a coppery color to it. It's beautiful. It's a huge temple. It's quite big and very, very peaceful. Very peaceful. Very beautiful. One of my personal favorites.
I think next time we do the tour of the Bharat temples, we'll have to take you with us.
Yeah, you're coming.
It would be my pleasure. I would be most happy to accompany you. That way, on that pretext, I would get to visit the temple as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. And yes, so the next temple we'll visit today, virtually though, is the Tiru Aranmula Sri Parthasarathi temple. This temple is situated on the banks of the holy river Pampa in the Pathanamthitta district of Kerala. This quite far from the capital city. It's like on the other end of Kerala, in a way. It is close to Shabarimala, and it is about 116 kilometers away from the capital city. The Pampa River is quite ancient. It's very, very sacred. It bore witness to the very first meeting of Lord Sri Rama and Lord Hanuman. So when Lord Rama and Hanuman met for the first time, it was on the banks of the Pampa River that they met. It's I think the largest river in Kerala. The temple here is dedicated to Sri Krishna as Parthasarathi, the charioteer of Arjuna. This temple is part of the Pancha Pandava Kshetrams, or 5 temples for Lord Vishnu, established by the Pandavas across Kerala. It is one of the 108 Divya Deshams that are revered by followers of the Sri Vaishnava tradition in the south of Bharat. So these temples were established by the Pandavas when they set out on a pilgrimage at the end of the Dwapara Yuga after Sri Krishna's ascent to Vaikuntha, or Swargarohanam as it is called. And after crowning Parikshit as the king of Hastinapura, the Pandavas decided to give up royal life and all material comforts, and they set out on a pilgrimage. So this temple was established by Arjuna. The other 4, we will talk about those temples in subsequent sessions. So the other 4 are as listed on the screen. So the Trichittat Mahavishnu temple established by Yudhishthira, the Tripuriyur Mahavishnu temple established by Bhima, the Tiruvanvandur Mahavishnu temple established by Nakula, and the Trikoditanam Mahavishnu temple established by Sahadeva. This is the eastern entrance of this Aranmula Parthasarathi temple. So the deity is 6 feet tall, quite big. Lord Mahavishnu with 4 arms holding Shankha, Chakra, Gada and Padma. But the deity Sankalpa, or the conception of the deity, is that of Parthasarathi, the charioteer of Arjuna, who imparted the eternal wisdom of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Now, many devotees would know about this very interesting episode in the Mahabharata, which of course is mentioned in the Bhagavatam as well, where Duryodhana, he taunts Bhishma that, oh, you are very fond of the Pandavas, you are partial to them, so you're not using your full power to fight against them. You're being soft, you're going soft on them. And now Bhishma, it struck a chord. Bhishma could not tolerate this. And he said, you wait and watch. You see, tomorrow and tomorrow onwards, I will fight with such ferocity. I will use the full extent of my power, such that even Krishna will be forced to fight in order to protect Arjuna. Now, Krishna had vowed not to take up arms. He said he would be on the side of the Pandavas, but he himself would not take up any weapons in the battle. Now, Bhishma was so affected by the words that Duryodhana used. He said, you wait. I'll force Krishna to take up weapons in the battle. So the next day, Bhishma comes back with full force and he fights with so much power, so much strength, that there was absolutely no way that Arjuna could match him in the battle. And the string of Arjuna's bow snapped, the bow broke, and he was wounded by Bhishma's arrows. He was unable to fight. And seeing Arjuna wounded, seeing that he was not able to retaliate, Krishna jumped down from the chariot and he charged towards Bhishma in anger. He invoked the Sudarshana Chakra and he moved to fight Bhishma. It seemed, to those who were watching, it seemed for a moment that even Krishna had forgotten that he was not supposed to take up weapons in the battle as per his vow. Bhishma was overjoyed. He realized, oh, the Lord is so merciful. He knows what vow I took. I made a vow that I would make him take up a weapon in the battle. And he has done that to make my words come true. How much more merciful could he be? And then he surrendered before the Lord. He bowed down to the Lord. And on the other hand, here Arjuna is worried because he can see that Krishna is about to break his vow. He fell at Krishna's feet. He said, Krishna, please don't do this. Please don't forget. You said you would not take up weapons in the battle, and look what you're about to do. Please call your Sudarshana Chakra back. Don't use it. So devotees believe that that merciful form of Sri Krishna is enshrined here at the Aranmula Parthasarathi temple. Locals believe, local folklore says that the spirit of Dushasana stands guard at the eastern entrance of the temple as atonement, in repentance for all the sins that he committed during his life. So repenting as, I think the word in Sanskrit for that is prayashchitta. In repentance for his all his sins, he stands guard at the eastern entrance of the Lord's temple. Now, the deity that Arjuna installed was originally at a place called Nilakil, which is very close to Shabarimala. And it is believed that much, much later, the deity came floating to the present location of the temple on a river raft. It came on its own. That's what is believed. On a river raft made of 6 bamboo pieces. So 6 small sticks of bamboo. And because of that, the place came to be known as Aranmula. Ar meaning 6. The word Ar means the number 6 in Malayalam. And the word Mula meaning bamboo. At this temple, apart from the presiding deity, there are also shrines for Lord Ayyappa or Shasta, Bhagavati or Devi Durga, Lord Shiva, and Lord Balarama at the temple. Aranmula is famous for the annual snake boat race, or Vallam Kali as it is called locally, on the last day of the 10-day Onam festival that is celebrated in Kerala. And also for the feast that follows this boat race. The feast is called Valla Sadhya, Sadhya meaning feast. And a very important item of this feast is salted mango prasadam, which is offered to the Lord, along with a host of other dishes. So when these boatmen come, when they compete in that race, and they come along on these boats to the shore, to the river banks, it is believed that the Lord also travels along with them. And therefore, the devotees at the temple, they consider it a blessing to offer seva, to serve food to the boatsmen at this feast. The Lord here is known as Annadana Prabhu, he who never ever lets anyone remain hungry. no matter who he or she may be, whether it is a human being or an animal or a bird. And it is a firm belief that children who have their first morsel of solid food at this temple will never be affected by starvation or poverty. The small, I haven't included the text to explain, but if you look at the small red photograph on screen in the middle, that is a photograph of a very special mirror, which is made locally in Aranmula out of a mixture of various metals and minerals. And it is, it's like it's got tagged with because it is so unique to this region. Of course, I think commercial production of these mirrors may have started, but for many, many years, the art of making that mirror was known only to a select few families in this region. It is called the Aranmula Kannadi, Kannadi meaning mirror in Malayalam. So it's got its own name, it's got its own unique speciality. So yes, that was the Aranmula Parthasarathi temple for in our virtual pilgrimage. There are 4 more temples. This was the temple established by Arjuna. So the temples established by the other brothers are also in the same region. We'll talk about them in subsequent sessions. Any questions? Anything to suggest? Anything to ask?
Hare Krishna.
No.
Hare Krishna.
I just wanted to ask, or I might be wrong, I'm not sure. We went somewhere in South about
Yeah.
3-4 years ago. We
Okay.
went to Parthasarathi temple,
Yeah.
and that Krishna had mustache. Is that the same one? or
Oh no,
is that
that
a
one is in
different-
Chennai.
Chennai,
That that Parthasarathi temple you are referring to is in Chennai. It is at this place in Chennai called Tiruvallikeni.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tiruvallikeni is the proper traditional name for that place. But during times of the British rule, it was anglicized, and people also know the place as Triplicane
Okay.
in Chennai. Yes, that is also a Parthasarathi temple. That is also one of the 108 Divya Deshams, which are greatly respected by the Sri Vaishnavas. But yeah, that one is in Chennai.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a unique one. We were
It is,
queued up
yeah.
for a long time to get in, and I got a vivid memory with Krishna with a mustache, and I thought,
Yes, indeed.
thank you.
We'll go
Thank
with some
you.
razors next time we go and see that temple.
Sorry, what did you say?
We'll go with some razors next time.
Okay. So the last temple on our tour today is the Ambala Pura Sri Krishna temple. This is situated in the Alapi or the Alapura district of Kerala. It is also dedicated to Sri Krishna in his Parthasarathi form. So the deity has 2 hands. He holds a conch or a shankha in his left hand and a horse whip in the right hand. But the deity Sankalpa or the conception as the devotees visualize the Lord is that of Unni Krishna or little Krishna, child Krishna. The temple was built by a king called Devanarayanan Nambudiri. He belonged to a dynasty called the Champakasheri dynasty, and he ruled over a very large part of the kingdom of Travancore that included Ambalapura. Now, this king was a very great devotee of Sri Krishna, and he was aware, very much aware of the glory of the Guruvayur temple, and he wished to have a temple for the Lord in Ambalapura as well. And he also had great respect for Vilvamangalam Swamiyar, and when they met, he expressed his desire to have darshan of the Lord at least once, because Vilvamangalam Swamiyar was known to be able to have darshan of the Lord at any time he wanted, and how many ever times he wanted, because he was such a great devotee. So the Swamiyar said, okay, let us go on a boat ride across these backwaters. So the backwaters there are called, have the name Champakulam. So let us go on a boat ride. And when Swamiyar and the king were thus traveling, suddenly the Swamiyar said, no, no, stop the boat, stop the boat. I can hear someone playing the flute. I can hear the music of the flute. The Lord is here somewhere. He's somewhere around. And this music is, I'm sure this music is not being created by humans. It's divine music. Stop the boat right here. And Swamiyar could also see a brilliant blue light, a brilliant blue globe coming from a large peepal tree. And then imagine the Swamiyar's surprise when he saw the Lord sitting high up in the branches of the tree, playing his flute, and he was smiling down at him. And Swamiyar was, of course, delighted. Now the king was curious. He started to become restless. Oh my God, are you seeing? Are you really seeing the Lord? I want to see him too. Please, please, even if it's just for a moment, I want to have darshan of the Lord as well. So the Swamiyar said, okay, if you touch my arm briefly for a moment, and if you look in the direction that I'm pointing, you will be able to see the Lord as well. And the king was able to see the Lord sitting there on high up in the tree, playing his flute, even if it was only for a moment. And then the king had, after this very beautiful darshan, the king had a temple constructed for the Lord, and a deity of the Lord was made specifically for the purpose of installation. Now, but then what happened was the priest who was about to perform this installation, because of the yogic powers that he had acquired by means of prayer and meditation, he sensed that there was something wrong with the deity that they had got made for that occasion. And he thought there is some imperfection. I cannot say what and why, but there is something that doesn't seem right to me. So what he did was he took a small iron rod and he lightly struck one side of the deity where he could see a swelling, an unnatural swelling. And when he struck that side of the deity, turbid water, muddy water started gushing out. So they were all they were shocked, they were disappointed. Oh my God, we were supposed to install this deity in the temple, and now this imperfection has come to light. What are we to do? Where else can we get a suitable deity of the Lord? How can we complete the installation in the temple? The king was very, very disappointed, especially because he was so looking forward to this. And it was then that Vilvamangalam Swamiyar arrived, and he advised the king. He said, there is a neighboring temple here. There's a temple nearby at a place called Kurichi. And there is a very divine, a Swayambhu or self-manifested deity of Krishna in his Parthasarathi form. You must get the deity here and install it in the temple that you have built. Now, the catch here was that this king who had just built the temple, King Devanarayanan, and the king of that neighboring area, they were not on very good terms. They were not on friendly terms at all. And for years and years, that quarrel had been going on for years and years. So the king thought, there is no way he is going to allow me to get that deity of the Lord here. There's no way he's going to give it to me on his own. What am I supposed to do now? And the king's minister suggested the only way we can do it is bring the deity here under cover of darkness without anyone knowing about it. And so the guards, the soldiers and the guards of this king, Devanarayanan, they went to the neighboring region, and under cover of darkness, they very stealthily, they managed to take the deity of Sri Krishna from that place. Now, the guards who were supposed to be guarding that place, they did not know the significance of the deity that was being taken away by these soldiers. Said, okay, it must be quite ordinary. Why should we worry? We don't need to tell our king about this. Let them take away. It's just an idol that they're taking away. They did not realize the significance of that deity at that point. And so the Lord was welcomed to Ambala in decorated boats with a lot of fanfare, a lot of grand celebrations. And in memory of that joyous occasion, the very famous Champakulam boat race is held every year. The deity is again Swayambhu or self-manifested and is of divine origin. It has not been made by human hands. The photo that you see is not the deity in the temple itself. This is a photograph of the festive deity of the Lord. So as you can see, he is holding a conch and a horse whip in his form as Parthasarathi. There is one very interesting thing about the temple that I would like to share, but I apologize, I don't have the slides ready, but I can share it verbally as quickly as I can. So the temple of Ambalapura is very, very famous for its Pal Payasam Prasadam. So Pal Payasam meaning sweet rice kheer. And it is unlike any other temple, unlike any other temple. We've had the fortune of tasting that prasadam personally, and it is divine, I must tell you. We haven't had such a kheer anywhere, any other temple. It's got a very secret, very special recipe that has been passed down for generations and generations. And it's got a very unique color, very unique. It's got a very beautiful golden color to it. And no one knows what the recipe is, but anyone who has tasted the kheer can tell you that there is no kheer like this at any other place in India or anywhere in the world for that matter. So what is the story behind this kheer? There is a very interesting story behind how this prasadam came to be offered at the temple. Now, this king who had the temple constructed, he was very fond of the game of chess. And he was known to invite anyone and everyone, oh, come play with me. Come, let's have a game of chess. And he was known to very generously reward his opponent, especially if they won. So there was a reward even for just coming over and playing the game with the king, not just winning the game, but even playing, people used to be rewarded. And this was one addiction that could be seen as a shortcoming of the king, because it was an addiction after all. And we know very well from the Mahabharata what addiction can do. The war itself came about because of a game of gambling. But this was not a case of gambling, this was a case of a game of chess. And so the king was also slightly proud of the fact that his kingdom was so prosperous. Oh, the people in my kingdom are so self-sufficient. They are so happy and well-fed and prosperous. There's so much food. There's no shortage of anything whatsoever. I must be doing a really good job. And he was so proud of himself. And Krishna wanted to strike at this pride. And so what he did was he took the form of a very charming young man, and he came to the court of this king. And when the king asked him, "What is your purpose? You look very young, very fit, and very able-bodied, but you're carrying weapons. What is your purpose? Why have you come here?" So the Lord said, "I have come here to play a game of chess with you. I've heard that you're very fond of the game of chess. So I thought, why not? Why don't I come and play a game with you? I've been wanting to do that for a very long time." And the king was delighted beyond measure. Like, "Oh, here I have been looking for someone to come and play, and this young man comes along." And then they both sit down to play the game. Now, the king was supposed to be an expert in the game of chess, and he was known to defeat most of his opponents in just 2 or 3 moves. But this was the Lord. This was no ordinary opponent, though the king did not know it. And they began playing. They played game after game after game. The king kept on losing. The young man kept on winning. The king started to sweat. He started to get tensed. Oh my God, this is something extraordinary. I have never seen anyone play like this before. And the king's wife or daughter, I think, she suspected, this is no ordinary man. He doesn't look like a warrior. He's carrying weapons, but he's got such a divine glow to him. His features, his body, they do not match his. There doesn't seem to be any connection between his posture, his beauty, and the weapons that he's carrying. But she thought, okay, let me watch the game anyway. And then they kept playing and playing and playing, and finally the king had to admit defeat. He said, "Ask what reward you want. Anything that you like, anything that you like." See, the pride has still not gone yet. And the young man, that is the Lord, he said, "All I want is some rice, a few grains of rice." Few grains of rice? That's all that you want? Don't you know how much I have? I can give you anything that you ask for, and all you ask me is a few grains of rice. And think before you speak, O king. There is a condition. Okay, what condition is it? This chessboard, you see, this is how I want you to give me the rice. So 1 grain of rice for the first square, 2 grains of rice for the second, 4 grains of rice for the third, 8 grains of rice for the fourth, and so on and so on and so on. So multiplying exponentially. And again said, "Is that all? Okay, let me do that." And then the accountants, the king, they all get together, they start calculating the amount of rice that the Lord has asked for. And as they kept calculating, as they kept on measuring out the rice, as the young man had mentioned, they started to realize what a big blunder they had committed. All the rice that they had was exhausted, and there were still 4 squares left, 60 squares covered. Every single grain of rice that was available in the palace and the kingdom was exhausted. Everything's gone, has to be given away. And there were still 4 squares left. The king said, "Oh, young man, please tell me who you are. I surrender. I surrender myself." And then the Lord revealed his true form. He said, "See, this is what happens when pride or ego enters your mind. How are you going to repay your debt to me? There are still 4 squares left. You've given me grains of rice only for 60 squares, and there is so much more to go. How are you going to repay me? What I want you to do is this. Ensure that all this rice is used to make prasadam offered at the temple and then distributed for free to all the devotees who come to the temple. Ensure that you do this. So when you offer the prasadam, when the prasadam is offered and then given to the devotees, I shall consider the debt to be repaid. So the tradition that the king started has continued to this day. And that is how the very, very famous Ambala Pura Pal Paisam came into being. That is the greatness of the Lord.
Very nice pastime. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity as always. I hope the devotees have enjoyed this tour of these 5 temples.
What do you think, devotees?
Thank you, Mataji. I enjoyed a lot. Thank you for this divine.
Thank you. Thank you, Karna Mataji. Thank you.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, the amazing trip down to all these temples.
And yeah, even virtually, it's amazing. So,
Of
well
course,
done.
nothing beats the personal experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we can't wait.
Nothing beats a personal experience. I have tried however little I can to.
No, but it's still good. Very good.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Any questions? Any other comments? Otherwise, we can go to the Nishinga.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna and Lekha Mataji.
Thank you so much for this nice virtual Sunday morning tours to South India, to Kerala. Really nicely explained, and this details, minute details. I have heard some of the stories, but not quite know them. But today, everything is right in my mind. Thank you so much, Shruti. As usual, you're
Mataji.
amazing. You're amazing, Shruti. Thank you.
That's very kind of you to say, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Dandavad, Nitai Gaur Haribol. Thank you very much. Well presented. Excellent. Thank you,
Hare
Didi.
Krishna, Surendra Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Dandavad to all Vaishnavas. Nitai Gaur Haribol.
Haribol, Haribol.
Haribol, Shruti, your sweetness, your sweet voice, and the sweetness of the katha was double sweet. I could almost taste this kheer of India. Hare Krishna.
I'm tempted myself. I want to go right now and have that kheer.
Yeah, take us
Thank
with
you so much. Very kind of you to say thank you. Thank you so much.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Well done.